In this guide, I will be explaining as in-depth as possible how you can be successful with Venusaur. I'll be having timestamps in the video, but watching the whole thing gives you better understanding of this Pokemon as a whole. So let's first talk about pros and cons, why you should pick Venusaur for your team. So first we got pros, the good ones. So Venusaur is a versatile attacker. You can play two different playstyles with this Pokemon. The first one is the ranged build with Sludge Bomb and Solar Beam, which enables you to do damage from distance and also secure objectives like Dreadnought. The second build is Giga Drain and Petal Dance. This focuses more on the close range quarters battles, but has a higher overall DPS compared to the ranged build, but both styles are very viable for this Pokemon. Next we have Venusaur is able to carry games. So as I aforementioned, this Pokemon has a high damage output, especially with the close quarters build, so you are able to do so much damage, but there are certain criteria you have to meet in order to be truly successful with this Pokemon, which I'll get to in just a hot minute. Next we have Venusaur has a solid early, mid and late game. So no matter what stage you're in with this Pokemon, you should not be struggling too much if you know what you're doing, how to position yourself and find that balance between offense and defense. But that's gonna take practice, and with some trial and error, you're gonna be golden with Venusaur. And the last pros I have is that Venusaur is a great jungler and laner. If you wanna take this Pokemon to jungle, I highly advise you to go with Giga Drain and Petal Dance, but for lane, you can go with both builds. I'll be explaining the jungle and how the laning works later on in this video, but now let's talk about cons, the negative parts. So Venusaur is squishy. While Venusaur might not be the squishiest Pokemon around, like Cinderace and Greninja are some of the weakest in terms of sustain, you can still get pretty easily caught and killed if you're doing a bad position, so you want to be careful when you can afford to go in when it's the right time to go back. Next con I have is that Venusaur has a mediocre Unite move. This is arguable, yes, but I think there are better Unite moves in the game. But I also think there are worse Unite moves in the game. But using the Unite move, it's gonna require some practice, because if you just mindlessly tap the button, it might go into directions that you didn't want to use it. So aiming is also very important with this one. Venusaur also is very reliant on cooldowns and allies. What I mean with this is that if you don't have your cooldowns up and you're in a fight, you might want to take a step back, unless your team is committing, kill those people and you know that you're gonna get that peel and sustain. And the allies are very important. You have to know what Pokemon you are around with. If you have a defender or supporter type Pokemon like Wigglytuff, Eldegoss, Snorlax, that's gonna be a good thing for you because they can soak up the damage while you do the DPS. So it's ideal to lane with someone that can peel for you. But if you're on a team that has a lot of attackers and speedsters and stuff, it's gonna be harder for you to shine in those battles because everyone around you is gonna be squishy as well. No one can really take the heat, and you should technically not be the one who goes first into those team fights. So keep that in mind when you go to play with Venusaur. What allies do you have around, so you can adjust your positioning and playstyle according to that. And the last con I have is that Venusaur has a weak mobility. The only mobility Venusaur is getting is from Petal Dance. That movement speed boost is really great, but other than that, especially if you go that ranged build, you are not going to have any mobility. With an exception of the Unite move. If you use the Unite move after it's used, you're gonna get that movement speed boost. So that's gonna help with the mobility as well. But he's not super agile Pokemon like, let's say, Talonflame, Zeraora, Lucario, but there are Pokemon with even less mobility, like Cramorant for example. Okay, so now let's move on to the Venusaur progression and moves, in-depthly explained. So at level 1 you start at Bulbasaur, and you can still have a nice decent early game with the abilities Bulbasaur is getting at levels 1 and 3. So just keep that nice positioning and you should be good to go. Then at level 5 you evolve into Ivysaur, which gonna make things easier for you because you gotta be stronger at that point. But where this Pokemon really shines is obviously at level 9. You wanna hit that level 9 ASAP to get the max potential out of this Pokemon. So the overall process is very solid for this Pokemon. He's a bit weaker towards the early mid game, but once you hit that level 9 and go from there, this Pokemon is gonna be really good. So first we got the basic attack. Becomes a boosted attack with every third attack, dealing increased damage. This boosted attack also pulls opposing Pokemon inward between the user's vines. So the basic attack is very self-explanatory. The normal attacks are these small leaf projectiles, which do okay damage, but the boosted attack is the banger of it. you can do a lot of damage with the boosted attacks. And when the Venusaur is pulling the vines, it also applies crowd control effect. And if there are enemies stacked together, you can crowd control several people briefly. There are also rare scenarios where the boosted auto attack can be dodged. For example, with the battle item, eject button, you can dodge this boosted attack. Or if you're just a tad out of range and let's say the enemy has better movement speed than you, there might be a rare scenario that it's not going through, so keep that in mind. Then we have the passive, Overgrow. When Venusaur is at low HP, the damage it deals is increased. So let's say if you're on a 1 versus 1 battle and you start to hit lower HP, you're gonna do more damage. And this can be the turning factor whether you are going to win that duel or not. So lower the HP you have, the more damage you're gonna do. Ideally, you want to be as healthy as possible, so this is kind of contradictory to that. But there are going to be scenarios that you just drop to that low HP and you still have to battle, and this can be the determining factor whether you are going to win that duel or that team fight thanks to this passive, so you want to keep this in mind. Okay, so now let's talk about the abilities. At level 1, you get to choose either Seed Bomb, that has a 6-second cooldown, or Razor Leaf, that has a 9 seconds cooldown. So first, let's talk about Seed Bomb. Hurls a large seed at the designated area, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon in the area of effect. This is a very straightforward skill shot ability, it's relatively easy to aim, and it's gonna do that flat damage. It's an okay tool to try secure wild Pokemon last hits, and works as a nice little DPS boost in those early levels. Then Razor Leaf launches many sharp-edged leaves in a quick succession of attacks, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon in the area of effect. This ability is what makes Bulbasaur a pretty decent early game laner and jungler as well. The base damage on the Razor Leaf, if you can line this ability correctly, you can do a lot of damage. But you have to keep in mind it's a channeled ability, so you are technically stuck in place when you're channeling those leaves. But if you line this ability correctly, you're gonna do a lot of damage. Also, if you pair crowd control to this, it's easier to secure as much damage from this ability as possible. I start with Razor Leaf at level 1 and then I get the Seed Bomb at level 3, only because Razor Leaf has a higher damage output. So then you hit to level 5, you get to choose either Sludge Bomb with a 6 seconds cooldown or Giga Drain with 7 seconds cooldown. So Sludge Bomb hurls unsanitary sludge to the designated area, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon in the area of effect, leaving them poisoned and decreasing their movement speed and special defense for a short time. Upgraded to Sludge Bomb Plus when the Pokemon reaches level 11. And the upgraded version is going to increase this move's area of effect. Sludge Bomb is a nice zoning tool. If enemy steps on this puddle of poison, it's gonna deal that damage over time, slowing them and also reducing that special defense, so it's overall a little nice package you can throw in. It also pairs well with crowd control abilities. Let's say a Snorlax is doing a heavy slam or Slowbro is doing telekinesis and you just drop it under that crowd control, you can even get that extra damage output from this ability. I take Sludge Bomb with the long range build, so if you're planning to go that, definitely go for Sludge Bomb. But for the close quarters playstyle, go with Giga Drain. Drains HP from opposing Pokemon in the area of effect, dealing damage to them and restoring the user's HP when it hits. Also reduces the damage the user receives for a short time. Upgraded to Giga Drain Plus when the Pokemon reaches level 11, and the upgraded version is going to increase the amount of HP this move restores. So this ability has that cone-shaped area. It also does flat damage, and if you successfully hit Giga Drain, you're gonna get some HP back. It's a nice sustain tool with the close quarters build, because you have to be close to the enemy to be effective with your abilities and overall damage. So every bit of sustain is very welcome, and that's why I take Giga Drain for the close quarters build. And the extra heal from the upgraded version is also a nice addition. Moving to level 7, you get to choose another 2 set of abilities. This is going to replace Razor Leaf, and at level 5, the Sludge Bomb or the Giga Drain is going to replace Seed Bomb. So, we got Solar Beam with 10 seconds cooldown and Petal Dance with 9 seconds cooldown. Solar Beam blasts a bundled beam of light, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon in the area of effect. Upgraded to Solar Beam Plus when the Pokemon reaches level 13, and the upgraded version reduces this move's cooldown. So this makes Venusaur a sniper, because of its long range, And you can secure last hits with Pokemon and enemy Pokemon as well. And most importantly, if you time this ability correctly, you can even secure big objectives like Dreadnought, Zapdos and Rotom. But the timing is the key to make the success with this ability. You also need to try predict the enemy's movement because this ability has a delay before the actual damage part applies. So just practice with it and you're gonna be better, and then you can hit those solar beams effectively. Obviously I take solar beam for the ranged build and Petal Dance I take for the close quarters build. So Petal Dance scatters petals around the user, increasing movement speed for a short time and dealing damage over time to opposing Pokemon in the area of effect. Upgraded to Petal Dance Plus when the Pokemon reaches level 13, and the upgraded version increases this move's area of effect. So this ability is what makes Venusaur very good DPS in the close quarters build. You're getting those petals around you, they're gonna do damage in addition to your auto attacks, as well as that movement speed boost is really good for trying to chase opponents, as well as there could be situations that you have to disengage and the movement speed is going to help you with that as well. But keep in mind that you have to be very close to be effective with this ability. You're not like Cinderace, who can poke damage from a little longer distance. You have to commit with Petal Dance when you go in to get the utilization out of it. The upgraded version is gonna make things easier for you because the area of Petal Dance is going to get increased and it's very noticeable. So you don't have to go as close to the enemies compared to the normal Petal Dance. So keep that in mind. Very strong ability. And last but not least, level 9, you're going to evolve into Venusaur and then you get your Unite move, Verdant Anger. Launches a giant seed toward the designated area. The seed then splits apart, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon in the area of effect and decreasing their movement speed for a short time. So yeah, just like Solar Beam, Razor Leaf, Seed Bomb, Sludge Bomb and Giga Drain, this is also technically a skill shot. So it first bursts out that big boom and then it splits into 4 parts. And this Unite move is really easy to mess up. So you want to have that practice so you can make the best out of this one. Ideally, this will be used in situations where there are a lot of enemy Pokemon stacked together, so you get that nice AoE chunk burst damage. But in some scenarios, you might have to use it on 1 or 2 Pokemon. It really depends on the situation at hand. So approach those scenarios uniquely and think about the best strategy from there on out. You're gonna develop that strategy with time, with experience, so don't judge yourself if you don't pop off in the first game. Trial and error is very important. That's how you can become a good Venusaur player. Okay, so next let's talk about battle items and held items. For battle item, my recommendation is eject button. This is pretty universal on all Pokemon, and since I'm coming from League of Legends background, this is the way to go for me. It's very solid, it can help you catch people, but it's usually used on escaping situations. Even with the 70 seconds cooldown, this battle item is so good. I've also heard that some people like to use full heal, because if you are heavily crowd controlled, you can be deleted fast. So in more niche circumstances, this could be the better option, but for me, it's gonna be that eject button for sure. It's just more versatile all around. Okay, then we have the held items. Here are my recommendations. First of all, body barrier. So you are going to get that shield when you use your Unite move, and if you have an ally close to you, it's going to get that shield as well, and you also get base HP. Due to the nature of this Pokemon, Venusaur is somewhat squishy, so any kind of extra sustain is very welcome, and that's why I recommend body barrier. Same goes with focus band. So you drop to low HP, you are going to heal for 3 seconds. It's gonna regenerate percentage of the HP it had lost. Depending on the level, this value is different. And it also gives you defense and special defense. It might sound weird that I'm taking defensive held items for a Pokemon that's supposed to do damage, but you have to understand in Pokemon Unite there are so many abilities and different attacks that do a ton of damage. And dead Venusaur is no good Venusaur, so I'll compensate the sustain factor with these 2 held items. For the third option, it depends, do you want to go that long range build or the close quarters build? For the close quarters build, I go with muscle band. You are going to do that extra damage with your basic attacks. It's gonna be increased depending on the opposing Pokemon's remaining HP. You also get basic attack and basic attack speed. So overall a very solid item for the Petal Dance build. For the long range build, I would replace Muscle Band to Energy Amplifier. This is going to give you base cooldown reduction and your Unite moves are gonna get faster up. And after you've used your Unite move, you also get extra damage. So my recommendation with the ranged build, it can work with the Petal Dance build as well, but I just think the Muscle Band gives you more solid damage throughout the game. You could try Wise Glasses as well, but I just see more potential with Energy Amplifier. Same goes with Score Shield. This item is good, but it excels more in the tankier Pokemon like Snorlax. But it's not a terrible option for Venusaur. Choice specs for me? That's a fat maybe. I like this item on paper. Increases the damage of moves when they hit. But the thing is that Timmy doesn't tell you here that it has a 6 to 8 second cooldown. So you cannot amplify your abilities 24/7. Let's say you do Sludge Bomb and Solar Beam in a quick succession, only one of those two is going to get this boost. So this is a big maybe to try out. Now I will be explaining how the lane Venusaur works, and then we get to the jungle Venusaur. I want to give you that basic idea how each role works and how you can utilize it the best. So in this example I'm taking the bot lane with Mr. Mime. We're gonna start from this APOM, and ideally you want to have that XP split in a way that both get that level 3, like here we did a perfect split. Then the Audino is on top of here. This is what you want to contest first, because it's the neutral creep. If you're on the top lane, there's gonna be that Corphish in the bottom side of the lane. So here, after the first Audino, you can either go to your own Audino, or if you have a range like with Bulbasaur, you can try to steal with Razor Leaf like I did there, just nicely. Then you get the rest of the Pokemon, this Audino here. Ideally, you also want to partner with a Pokemon that is more tanky and doesn't rely on the last hits. Like Mr. Mime here, he can utilize last hits, yes, but he can also afford to give those last hits to Venusaur. So he's not something like a hyper carry like Greninja. At 900, the crab to the left is gonna spawn, and only one Pokemon should go for that left crab, because they can have that brief moment to try score. So don't put both Pokemon there. Then at 850, the first set of is gonna spawn. You wanna try get these as much as possible. You also want to try avoid their jungler so you don't get caught, and also keep an eye for your jungler if there's going to be a gank, and readjust your positioning to that situation to come. So now that the bees are done, there could be a fight coming up at this point, and if the situation allows you to do so, try to put those balls in to their enemy goal. You would like to get that first goal done before 700 if you're in the bottom lane, so the enemy will have longer time to try contest the Dreadnought. In even some comps and pre-mates, people tend to stack 3 people in the bottom lane. Then at 720, the second set of bees are going to spawn. You want to try get as many of these as possible as well. And once that's out of the way and there is a fight going on, depending on the situation, you straight can go to Dreadnought, but if there's a fight happening in the bottom lane, ideally you want to do that team fight first and then go to Dreadnought, but in some scenarios you have to battle for the Dreadnought with the enemy players, so it technically becomes like a coin flip situation in that point. But that's where the last hitting Dreadnought thing comes in play. You want to have that certain ability, or look at your allies' abilities. Do they have good abilities to try secure the Dreadnought? Sometimes you do get it, sometimes you don't. That just comes to trial and error. How do you execute the Dreadnought? I also have a separate video on Dreadnought on how to approach that encounter. I'll leave the link in the cards section on top right. So after Dreadnought is done, then you want to go for the Rotom. That's the secondary objective in this game. Dreadnought is the more important one. If Rotom is taken already at this point, you want to go farm the rest of the wild Pokemon that's seen in the minimap. And once you've farmed those Pokemon, it's pretty much rinse and repeat. You want to group up for the next Dreadnought, try to take it, then for the next Rotom, until the Zapdos fight comes. In the mid game, you want to try avoid going into those team fights. Sometimes it's necessary, but farm is more important to a carry Pokemon like Venusaur. So you want to find that balance between when you want to go to those fights and when it's just better to farm. Because the more XP you have, the more damage you're gonna do, and the more you're gonna pop off in those team fights. And once the Zapdos fight comes, you want to look at the situation on the notification. If you have a huge lead, you don't want to take down the Zapdos. You want to prevent enemy from taking the Zapdos as well as defend your own goals. But if you are points behind, at that point, you have to go for that Zapdos and try to secure the last hit so you can turn around the battle and get a win for your team. So that's the basic idea how the laning Venusaur works. So now I want to talk about the jungle Venusaur. So first you go to this Lillipup. If the Lillipup goes to the bottom side, I take down the Lillipup first and then go for this Ludicolo. After the Ludicolo, you want to do this inverted U-shape pattern. So Ludicolo, then Buffalant, then the top right Corphish, and last the bottom right Corphish. You want to prioritize the bottom lane with your ganks. Because of the Dreadnought, it resides in the bottom side of the map. Rotom is nowhere near as important. If the Lillipup goes to the top side, I take the Lillipup first, then the top right Corphish. After that, I go for that Ludicolo, then Buffalant, and last the bottom right Corphish. You always want to end your first rotation on the bottom right Corphish, cause you want to gank the bottom lane first. I don't see any motive to gank the top lane first, because Dreadnought as objective is so important. So yeah, if the Lillipup goes top, it's that C-shaped pattern you're gonna do those jungle camps, then go bottom. So once you've cleared those camps, you wanna go into this top bush and wait for the 850 bees. There is a chance that there's fight already happening at this stage, and you could contribute to that. But that really depends on the positioning where the fight is actually happening. If the fight is happening in your side, closer to your goal, you just could go straight to the battle. But if it's closer to their side, just stay neutral and stay on this bush. Also, the other jungle can come contesting this situation. So depending on the matchup and the circumstances, there is very likely a small skirmish about to happen. But the biggest prioritization are the 850 bees. You wanna get those bees as many as possible, and if you can get couple kills along the way, that's a bonus. And if you do get those kills, you also have an opportunity to score, but you have to score right away before the enemies respawn. After the bees, I like to go to the center side of the jungle. There are 4 Corphish here. I want to take down as many as possible, and this is also the place where enemy jungler might reside, so depending on the matchup, you either wanna try take him down or you want to just disengage. After the middle section is done, you are going to do another C-shaped clear with your own camps, because you want to go bottom lane again. Try to aim for that 720 where the second set of bees spawn. You want to get as many bees as possible, and usually there are a lot more people because the Dreadnought is about to spawn on 700. So then the Dreadnought spawns, and ideally you want to clear that team fight first before you encounter the Dreadnought. But in some situations both teams are contesting for that Dreadnought, and you go into this coin flip situation that you just try to have to last hit the Dreadnought so your team gets the shield and the XP boost. If you do get the shield and the enemies are close, it's usually wise to try force the team fight because you do have the advantage. And if you successfully take down them, you can go score and then go back to farm. But if you lose the Dreadnought fight, just head back and don't get caught. The second prioritization is Rotom. If Rotom hasn't been taken yet, it's ideal to go to the Rotom next after the Dreadnought. And once that spiel is done, then you just want to focus on farming. All the wild Pokemon that still are available, try to clear those. As a Venusaur, you want to get that XP advantage, so try to avoid to stay in the lane too much. And then the cycle repeats. You want to go for that next Dreadnought, try to get that, then the Rotom, then farm, and possibly the third Dreadnought, the third Rotom, and around that 2-minute time it's going to be the Zapdos fight. You are going to get that notification around the 2-minute mark. If you have a huge lead, you want to try prevent enemy taking down the Zapdos as well as defend your goals, but if you are struggling and behind, you have to go for the Zapdos. If you have to go for the Zapdos, or if you're defending it, in any case, shape or form, there's usually going to be a team fight, most of the time residing around the Zapdos. So just try your best to try win the fight. If you lose the fight, it's most likely that the enemy is going for that Zapdos and you're gonna lose the match. But if you do win the fight, let's say you ace their team, you even could go for the Zapdos even if you're super ahead. So you want to find that balance when it's important to take down the Zapdos and when do you want to defend it. I have a separate video on Zapdos. I'll have it on the cards at top right, so you can check it out if you have problems with that specific encounter. So that really sums up the jungle with Venusaur. And these patterns and the strategy overall, you can also adapt to other jungle Pokemon as well. This is not a restricted rule to Venusaur only. How do you do those camps and the ordering of it? This can be done with any Pokemon you jungle with. Okay, so that concludes all the information I have for the Venusaur Pro Guide. If I missed any information in this video, I will be adding a pinned comment in the video description so I can add that extra data to be as throughout with my information as possible. Also, if you found this video enjoyable and helpful, a thumbs up would be appreciated. So thank you for watching, my name is Hepodix and I hope you have a wonderful day.